Welcome back to Legacy Premier League. We're heading into round 2. We've got Emma Handy versus Jarvis and I'm joined by the man who doesn't like doing intros, so he said I could do the intro. It's Caleb D, the big D. How are you, Caleb?
I'm great. I just woke up. I got my Red Bull. I'm good to go.
Are you excited for some Legacy?
I'm very excited for some Legacy. I love
More
this league.
importantly, are you more excited for some Dredge versus Dredge, Caleb?
Oh, who couldn't be excited for Dredge on Dredge? I actually know very little about Dredge.
That's interesting. So I've played Dredge, but I've never played the Mirror, and I normally play like weird variants that try to Dredge return cards that no one wants me to play, like Sun Titans, for example. So last time we played, Caleb, on Modo, I Sun Titaned into Sahili and killed you on a stream.
You did.
That's the last time we played.
You did successfully do that 1 out of 3 games. I do remember that.
I know. I've replayed it a lot on the stream because it's good. Anyway, less about me. I just love talking about myself. We've got Jarvis U versus Emma Handy. They're both on some variant of mana dredge or LED dredge, as we call it. They have lands and they have LEDs. The big difference between the two is that Jarvis is on 1 Hogak, 1 Lotus Petal. I don't know what additional he's playing. Meanwhile, Emma is on 2 Hogaks and 2 Lotus Petals. What does he have that she doesn't? An Icarid and a Careful? No, I don't know what the additional card is. I looked at this earlier but couldn't see it. So the lists are very, very similar.
Yeah,
extremely
extremely
do you think
similar.
This is going to come down to who gets a Hogak first and just like rams into the opponent?
It might just come down to the die roll. Like, I mean, you have to be like a full turn ahead at that point, right?
Yeah, okay. I guess mulligans are pretty important too, right? Like we might just get one of the players with no dredges, and that puts them down cards.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, there's a big difference between like the nuts busted dredge opener where you like have the turn 1 LED crack into Faithless Looting flashback, and you've basically won the game on turn 1 versus like turn 1 Careful Study, discard 2 dredgers, and then like hope that your breakthrough resolves the next turn. Anyway.
I mean, breakthrough is definitely resolving in this game. I guess the turn 1 Cabal Therapy naming breakthrough could always be a laugh. But I mean, it's kind of like when people talk about Death and Taxes Mirror, they claim that Death and Taxes mirrors are skill intensive. Well, I claim it's all about who drew the Jitte all the way to get the Jitte. And I guess we're going to see similar here, right? Of Lion's Eye Diamonds into breakthroughs. Whoever has that busted draw first.
Yeah, it was interesting. They were actually talking about which was like a better deck. Jarvis said that he played like a lot of like regular Hagak, like not Dredge Hagak, but like actual factual like normal Legacy Hagak, the port of the modern deck, and he doesn't think it's quite as good as the Dredge version.
Right. I mean, the other thing as well, I guess, is that Jarvis has 3 Leyline of the Void. Meanwhile, Emma only has 2 Leyline of the Void, which could be quite important for the mirror. That said, Emma has 3 Nature's Claims, where Jarvis only has 2 Nature's Claims. So again, they're very similar sideboard plans, I believe. I mean, Jarvis has Silent Gravestones, as Emma. I don't think you care about that unless you really think your opponent's going to try and dread return something. But the deck lists are known, so no one's like dread returning anything weird or elaborate. It's just the Ashen Riders, like, typical tech against show and tell and things like that as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the mulliganing to ley lines in the game too, and who goes deeper or who keeps their 6 dredges and their breakthroughs.
We might get to see some gimp fights. Leyline mirrors, both players have one. Start attacking with hardcast Icarids and.
I am excited for that. That's what I want to see. I want to see people hard casting Narcomoebas and just swinging it in the air. I hope it comes down to a Narcomoeba getting in over a Hogak. That's where I want to see the final point of damage come from.
One of the most underpowered creatures that sees like a ton of play versus one of the most overpowered creatures.
It's got to be the worst 2-mana 1/1 that sees play, right? It's got to be. I mean, not many 2-mana 1/1 see play. We've got Strixes, the 2 Strixes now. We've got Elvish Visionary, and then I'm struggling to find another one in my head. That is interesting. I guess the funny thing as well with like Leyline in the Void, I'm joking about this Hogak coming to play, but I do want to see someone have a Leyline in the Void on the other side of the field, and they tap their entire army of Golgari thugs and trolls and things to play the Hogak. Yeah, actually, I'm more excited about this now that you've mentioned that, really. I hadn't thought of the double Leyline start. The other thing as well is we're both running out of things to talk about the Dredge matchup. So
both us two, like Dredge experts, co-commentating this one, of course.
What's your favorite thing to Dread Return in Legacy, Caleb?
My favorite thing to Dread Return? I have not played a Dread Return in a very long time.
Oh man, it's such a fun card.
It might be close to a decade. It's been a while.
That long?
It's been a long time. Yeah.
I thought you played meme decks that no one should have any mind of playing anyway. Does no one ever submit bad Dredge decks to you?
Oh, I don't play deck submissions.
Oh,
I've played like 3 Lifetime or something. Yeah, right.
Oh, okay. We can stop stumbling over Dread Returns now. We can get ready for going to the game with the players. Here we go. So, opening hands. We have Breakthroughs in both hands, and we have Lotus Petals in both hands. But Emma
Is that a mulligan already?
Mulliganed. Yes, Emma's mulliganed into a hand of almost complete land and mana.
Meanwhile, turn 1 Dark Amoeba.
That is a turn 1, 2 mana, 1/1. You don't get much more powerful legacy than that. Meanwhile, Jarvis has kept the Breakthrough plus the Petal because he has a Dredger, or 2 Dredgers, plus 2 Bridge from Belows as well. So, I mean, Emma mulliganed. I didn't know if she had no Dredgers, so that might have been the reason. It was so quick I couldn't really see.
So I'm going to talk about myself very briefly here. The one time I won on a Mulda 1 in competitive Magic, the one time it was versus a turn 1 Breakthrough hand out of Dredge.
What did you mull to?
I mulled to a Verdant Catacombs. I was looking for a ley line, but I found a Verdant Catacombs, and my opponent bricked on Dredgers for like 2 turns, and then I went like land and Green Sun for a Scavenging Ooze, and they reanimated an Iona, and I raced it with the Scavenging Ooze. I played no other cards. It was anyway.
That's obscene.
Right, no, absolutely.
Okay, Emma's down to 4 cards. Lanza Diamonds,
it's a good 4 cards.
And Thinkweed. This is actually really quite good, to be fair. So what the Lanza Diamond allows? Oh, go on. Sorry.
If you could pick your 4 cards, it's this, right?
I mean, I'll just swap the Stinkweed in for a Grave
Troll, yeah.
But I'm not fussy. So Emma's doing the correct thing here of holding priority on the Faithless Looting the first time she's cast it in order to activate the Lanza Diamond to put the Dredger in her hand into the bin. So every draw now is basically going to be a live Dredger. So Emma is off to the races.
Nice Dredge mechanics.
And then we've got a Narcomoeba into play, 3 Cabal Therapies in the bin, and a Bridge from Below. So we might see Jarvis's hand get torn apart.
Oh, we're gonna see a blind hit.
You name Breakthrough here? Is that the correct?
I think you name LED on the play.
LED, right. Lion's Eye Diamond, cool. So he dodged the first one, but she can go again with the zombie with one of the other multiple copies of Cabal Therapy in her graveyard. And now she can hit. Well, you don't name Bridge from Below, as much as that's value for 2 for 1 or 2 for nothing in this case.
It's not very good. Do you think Bridge from Below was a design mistake?
There's that philosophy and argument that this is that's what Legacy and to an extent Modern is, right? It's where design mistakes go to die. So I guess so. I guess it's a design mistake, but I like weird cards that become good later on. I think that's a really cool element of Eternal Magic. So I'm not very quick to say mistake, but I can understand why people might say that.
I like that answer.
Emma's doing the typical Dredge thing of using her graveyard as a hand. I thought she's going to put it smack bang over Jarvis's playing field because it's just that his game doesn't really matter, and I like that power play. Okay, so we dredged Grave Troll and hit nothing, and then passed back. Is that correct? Oh no, we're still in Jarvis's first turn.
Yeah.
I lost track. You asked about design mistakes.
Therapy, target self.
Right.
Oh no, this is Jarvis's second turn because he has 2 lanes to play.
I thought so. And now we see an Icrid from Emma, which is going to start the clocking, but also give more Cabal Therapy fodder. I mean, in the Dredge mirror, I guess Cabal Therapy gets significantly worse once we get past like turn 2. I guess it's just a sack outlet, which is good. Well, I say this, like, the weird thing about Cabal Therapy is that it's an engine card, right? So in the case of having multiple bridges in the bin, because we can see Emma's got a Hogak in her graveyard, for example. So if Emma would hit another bridge, the Cabal Therapy not only disrupts the opponent's hand, which in this case you don't want any of those cards in the graveyard, so you just blind name a random card. but it'd give her 2 zombies to make a Hogak.
Those trolls back in the graveyard, right?
Of course, yeah, you target. Of course you do. Of course you do. So yeah, it's just an engine card later in the game. But we don't see a second bridge, so we're not going to see a Hogak anytime soon.
Emma's initial burst was really, really good, but the follow-up dredges have not been super impressive. So Jarvis is still in it.
Well, it's true. Like, I guess, is the dredge mirror determined by the size of the graveyard? Because Emma is putting out like a formidable performance here with like a big graveyard energy. And meanwhile, Samwise, I was going to use his online name, Jarvis is struggling with just 1 dredger in the graveyard.
Well, he can crack a Coliseum next turn, right?
Yes, because Stinkweed will dredge him into it. So yeah, maybe he'll explode and be comparable in terms of the race towards filling your graveyard and emptying your deck into it.
I always thought tempo decks like Delver versus Dredge was always kind of interesting, like picking the right random effect to stifle and things of that nature.
I haven't cast a Stifle in a couple of years, to be completely frank. I mean, I'm almost surprised when people are still playing it now. I'm like, oh, they won't have Stifle. And they turn
Can I
on
still call
Stifle
you?
and fetch.
Can I still call you Victor?
Victor? Yeah, sure.
I don't think Frank suits you at all.
Oh, I see. Is it? I've never heard that one. Genuinely never heard that one. People in chat are saying it's weird to hear you talking without music in the background, Caleb.
Your voice is the only music I need.
I'll serenade you. Okay, so now we're on a comparable playing field. That said, Jarvis hit the double bridge into 2 zombies into Hogak and Bin. Meanwhile, Emma has not got that far, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Gak's coming out this turn, huh? Double bridge? Ooh.
I'm assuming so. It'd be silly not to play the free 8/8 that's sitting in the graveyard. So here you go. You've asked me if bridge was a design mistake. Do you think Hogak was a mistake, Caleb? Is that safe to say?
I think Hogak's power level was kind of a mistake.
You've seen the interview, right, of Maria asking Ben Stark what the idea was. He's like, "Oh, it's a cool commander build around," and there's just like a period of silence afterwards.
Well, just the fact that it blocks is so frustrating. You know what I mean? Like it's got trample and it blocks. Like all these other like very like efficient graveyard recursion creatures like don't block very well, and that's like their downside. They come into play tapped or something.
I've heard people ask for some of the text to be removed to perhaps balance it, but you want to add more text to the card. Interesting. I generally, all jokes aside, I haven't heard that argument before, but perhaps that is the correct one. That's interesting.
We got a Gak off.
So, here's an interesting interplay of the mirror. Is that when you're sacking Icarids and similar, or anything for that matter, which there's a lot of sacrificing in these decks, the opposing players' bridges go.
Yeah.
So Emma still has a bridge in her graveyard. Meanwhile, Jarvis has just lost his. Which is something I'd never considered in the mirror before.
Well, you've never played a Dredge Mirror.
Exactly.
So in the past, like 20 minutes that we've been thinking about the Dredge Mirror, you haven't thought of it, is what you're saying.
Exactly. I don't wake up in the middle of the night going, hang on a moment. What about the bridges in the Dredge Mirror? My wife's like, Vince, why are you like this? Please stop.
Wake up with a cold sweat. Yeah, so talking about like card design mistakes, I think Hooglin actually made like a really good point on Twitter, like quasi recently about Hogak, in that he's like happy that they happen. So like a mistake isn't necessarily a mistake because it means the Wizards is still experimenting and still like pushing boundaries and stuff.
Agreed.
And that that's like probably better for Magic overall. That mistakes happen sometimes.
So I ragged on Horizons a lot, and I ragged on the Hogak mistake a lot, but of course no one really saw it coming until it was here, right? Same with Eldrazi to an extent, but I do agree with that idea that we do want like Wizards to push the envelope. The problem we have is twofold: one, people buying into stuff to have it banned in other formats like Modern, and two is that it's our format, it's Legacy that has to bear the brunt, and Vintage to an extent, is bear the brunt of the mistakes. So there's still an open discussion as to whether or not like Khan and Narset and Teferi and all these cards are a mistake, but if anywhere it's going to prove true, it's going to be in the older formats, right?
What's kind of cool on this board is that we're seeing like one of the big differences between the two lists. Like Jarvis is only playing 1 GAC, and Emma is playing 2, and like because she has 2, she can loop them and have this like nice little zombie chain here.
Yeah,
kind of neat.
I was thinking this, but it's the other way around. If Jarvis was playing a second GAC and he hit it, he could just play the second one to sack his own GAC to blow up her bridges, right? But he doesn't have that option available to him. He needs to, well, he's got Icarids coming into play next turn, so Emma will lose her bridge. So perhaps in milling only 1 bridge now, it gives Emma more gas later because she'll keep hitting bridges. Meanwhile, we're 2 out of the 4 down for Jarvis. So 2 Icarids hit the board, and are we looking at like a board stall? Could we theoretically and quite possibly see one of these players mill out? Because they're going to have to stop dredging if they hit a real board stall, right?
That would be a hilarious ending. I would love that. I think that's actually the best possible conclusion to this match.
18 cards in Emma's deck and 23 in Jarvis's. So they're only a couple of dredges away from being in like real serious 5p territory, like a bad place. So Emma's losing her bridge at end step anyway, so you just throw some blocks into this, right? No, okay. Why would you not block an Icarid with Hogak? Is there a reason?
Well, there were 2 Icarids, right?
Yeah.
And one of them like eat a zombie, or oh no, it was therapy.
No, they both got through, didn't they?
Yeah.
Weird. I mean, I say board stall, but Emma's board looks considerably bigger than Jarvis's now. Look at that.
It does look like there's bridges in Jarvis's graveyard. Like I thought
But the zombie blocking would have caused the bridges to go away, right?
Huh?
When 2 creatures die simultaneously, the bridge goes away. Or does it? Oh, hang on. Is it like how the triggers are stacked? So he would have got zombies out of that?
It's non-tokens, right?
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. Okay. So just having the tokens to attack backwards is way better. Okay.
we got the 2 premier dredge experts.
I mean, apparently I've played more versions of this deck recently than you have, but I even forgot that clause. Did you know, Kayla, that duplicate says non-token? Did you know that? Did you know that? Because recently I had to target my own thing and decline the trigger because I didn't know up until like 2 weeks ago that duplicate targeted non-token because it had never come up before. You know?
Oh, I thought you were ribbing me. Because I have certainly messed that up in Cube before.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. They had a token copy of my Polukranos on the other side of the board. I'm like, well, duplicate that. I guess I won't. So, magic cards are hard to read. There's a lot of text on them, right?
It's a very hard game. It's super complicated. People lose sight of that a lot, especially when they're watching like a top 8 coverage of a GP. And these people who have like been grinding on like no sleep and no food for 15 rounds or whatever, and now they're going to play like an additional 4 hours that nobody else in the tournament has to play, and they're like at they're like their weakest, their most frazzled, and they like make a mistake, and everyone in chat's like, "Oh, what an idiot! Oh, I wouldn't do that."
Like, I mean, no one sleeps or eats properly before GPs, right? Like, that's just not a thing. Also, chat is saying that non-token creatures do trigger the bridge dying. No, Caleb, they do, because you can bounce your own Battle Skull, and you can use Eldrazi Scions as well. So yeah, no, they would have done. But I mean,
non-token clause.
It does. It does on the front end. On the front.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thanks, chat. I appreciate you. Got my back. Got my back, chat, for the first time ever. So Jarvis is at 2. Emma's at 13. Emma has a Narcomoeba in play, but she is about to take 9 hasty damage. No, Emma wins because Jarvis can't kill her before he gets cracked back on.
2 lives is not very many lives.
Yes, because if he swung with those 3-1s there, she'd block the Narcomoeba, the bridges would go, and he'd have no zombies.
So there was a lot more play to that game 1 than I was expecting.
I mean, yeah, we ignored half of it to talk about other things. Perhaps we shouldn't have. But yeah, if he cracked in, he would have lost his bridges. If he didn't crack in, he would have made 3 blockers, and she had enough to get around that, I believe. Would have to look back and stuff. So, right.
Yeah, I mean, she had like 4 tokens, right?
Yeah, I think there's 4 zombies and an Archimedes. So one of the 2/2s would have got through.
Mm-hmm.
He had no way to win at that point. We're going to see, obviously, Leyline of the Voids come in, I would assume. It's a pretty safe assumption, I would hasten to add. Hogak is coming out for Jarvis, interestingly. I guess it's that thing of like, if he's anticipating the ley line, you're not going to cast those Hogaks, right?
It's a card that's like a fierce amount of power, and it's a very efficient card once you're like already running to like go over the top of what the opponent's doing.
Sure.
Like they've got a 5/5, and you're like, all right, whatever, I've got an 8/8. But if you're boarding in a lot of cards, if you're boarding like hate and the answers to your opponent's hate, and you have to think about like, okay, what in my deck is not essential? What in my deck, if I cut it, my deck will still be able to function. And you, I mean, that's just have to be where the cuts come from when you're playing a combo style deck like this.
So we've got some Nature's Claims and some ley lines.
It's interesting that they're both still in on the therapies.
Well, Emma's, like we said earlier, I guess you can target yourself and sack your things, right? And did Emma just take the ley lines back out of the deck? I assume that's because she's thinking, or maybe is she next leveling here? Make Nature's Claim a dead card and then just go as ham as possible.
Oh, they have to come in, right?
I would assume so. Like the blanking Jarvis's 3 Nature's Claims probably isn't, or 2 Nature's Claims probably isn't worth it. There they go. They go back in. Maybe she's just trolling chat, not trolling us.
Or thinking about cuts, right? Sometimes it's just easier to think about numbers. So Jarvis has an LED and a ley line. Looks like a keep.
Meanwhile, Emma might be back on the mulligan plan, potentially, because...
Yeah, no ley line or answer to an opposing ley line. And so
would you go as far as say it's that or bust?
Yeah. They also just like wasn't that explosive, right?
Oof.
I think I keep that on the draw when you're already on 5.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Nature's Claim's going to the bin off the Lion's Eye Diamond unless she draws a land. She's on the draw, so she can get hit a land. Hit a land to claim the... If she hits a land, claims the ley line, and then goes off, that'd be pretty good. There it is.
Yeah, I'm more conservative with my keeps than most people, I think, but things change a little bit when you have like sideboard cards and stuff.
When you say conservative with your keeps, do you mean you're more likely to keep, or you're more likely to find a keepable hand? What do you mean?
I'm more likely to keep. I'm more likely to keep for sure. But it's like
I just hate shuffling. Right? So
yeah,
I just like
even on Moto, that's just a click.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to click that button.
Too many clicks.
An extra click. It's actually the same number of clicks up until the point that you have to click again. I guess it is one less click. So Emma did not draw the land. So Emma cannot go Nature's Claim, Lion's Eye into Favorite Sling. So instead, she is passing the turn.
Jarvis top decking a breakthrough there seems very strong.
Seems very good. So he's going to break through now. Lion's Eye crack for 3 red.
Floating through red for Faithless Looting, of course, which we hit.
It's almost like he knows what he's doing.
I still can't get over these like 8-bit faces.
I know,
avatars. They're so good. They're so good. Really stepping up the production quality this season.
Double narco hit. There's a therapy there. What if would you therapy for Nature's Claim here with open deck lists? Is that some like... Well, I guess he's going to get to therapy. Oh, he hit multiple therapies. It doesn't matter. He's going to know about it anyway.
Yeah.
This does not look good.
I think I still just name LED just because like it's a 4 of versus a 3 of or whatever.
But I mean, LED doesn't get her into the game, right? Like Nature's Claim gets her into the game. LED doesn't do anything.
But Nature's Claim isn't the only answer to
normally, sure, but we're open deck list, so they know each other's sideboards.
But it's not the only answer that Emma brought in. She brought in Nature's Claim and
Deafening Silence. Is that the one? Yeah. Okay.
No, I think it's like the 2-mana sacrifice thing, which is like, I mean, she's pretty far away from it because she doesn't have a land in play. But
that is Deafening Silence, isn't it?
I thought it was Serenity. Yeah, let me.
Oh, Serenity. Okay. I thought Serenity was a thing where you can't get counters. Well, I don't know why that'd be in the sideboard. What is Serenity?
Your upkeep, sack, destroy all artifacts and enchantments.
I thought I had a different name. Okay, I recognize the art. I thought that had. Okay, well there you go. Okay.
Non-surprisingly, we're going to game 3 here.
We were so busy getting that card name correct, and me not knowing what it was called, that we missed the actual name with the Cabal Therapy, or at least I did.
I named Claim right. I'm pretty sure a discard happened.
Well, he didn't kill her with damage, did he? It was more of a concession to the brutality of being therapied.
Well, and there was, I mean, some like 16 power in play.
There were some zombies, but like, look, if video games have taught me anything, zombies aren't the thing to worry about. But like therapy, that's something to be avoided. So do you have any changes to your sideboard plan when you're play and draw?
The only thing I could think of is that therapy is like slightly better on the play, but if it's just like a part of how your deck works and you can never bring it out, then it just doesn't matter, right?
Emma has also again moved the ley lines to the sideboard to think.
You could maybe
I mean, not having Will in hand means that you're likely to have a more explosive. She's going for it, a more explosive draw on the play.
All right. That happens.
I mean, she has Putrid Imp.
There was no draw power in that hand, though.
Yeah, exactly. This one does have draw in Faithless Looting, plus an Imp.
Jarvis also sent that opener back and finds Leyline.
So, does Emma keep this or play Hunt the sideboard tech? I guess Looting digs you. She keeps it. Looting does dig you to it. You get to go 2 whole cards deeper. It's so good, it got banned in Modern.
I was so sad. I was so sad when Looting got banned.
I was so glad. I'm done with that era, Caleb. I'm glad to say it's changed to Modern. That's
well, I just really enjoyed the Skelemental deck, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And that deck was like not playable in a field of Hagak, and I was like, finally, Hagak's finally gonna get banned, and I'll get to like hit someone with some 6/1s, and it never happened. It just.
I mean, I know your pain. One of my favorite combo decks to play, again, not very good, but it's fun, is Waste Not Storm.
Oh, and sure.
I haven't played it since the Faithless Looting ban, so I mean, the deck was an uphill struggle at the best of times, but which becomes a bit harder. So you see Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Leyline of the Void, and Cephalid Colosseum before the end of Jarvis's first turn.
It's a good turn 1.
It's not half bad. So you
crack for blue, right? With LED?
I mean, they can even go like X's 1 on the breakthrough, crack the LED for red, ditch the Sync Redemptor Graveyard.
Okay.
Begin drawing off the breakthrough.
That's probably exactly what he's thinking about. Which of those 2 lines is better? Like whether to crack the Colosseum this turn.
Cracking the lines over blue allows him to activate Colosseum if he hits enough dredges off the Stinkweed, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just threshold, just with like the single Stinkweed Dredge and the Lotus Petal and the LED.
Yeah, okay, that seems significantly better with the Cephalid Colosseum. sometimes I forget the second line was definitely Colosseum. I'm just like, what? Why does the City of Brass only tap for like one of the 5?
That card is pretty good in Dredge.
And my chat are just screaming like, "Crack the Colosseum!" I'm like, I don't get it. Is that a band? I don't understand. Okay, this
Crack
is
myself for one with the Coliseum. What are you saying?
It's called pinging, nerds. Come on, get the program. So he hit multiple bridges, 2 to be exact.
Seems strong.
Tons of dredges. We even see a nature's claim in there for good measure. But we don't see a single Cabal therapy, so these Narco moves aren't going to do any transforming anytime soon.
That's always the best when you go through like over half of your deck list and like don't find one of a 4 of.
I mean, that's the only reason I lost to you in that second match when I was playing Planeswalker Dredge, right? Like,
of course.
Bad luck more so than bad play.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple factors as always, but...
So we see a Faithless Looting. Wait. Could we have not ditched the Stinkweed Imp to the Putrid Imp? Or did we draw...
Say what?
I thought we could ditch the Stinkweed Imp to the Putrid Imp and then Faithless Loot it to start dredging.
I mean, we could certainly discard the Stinkweed Imp to the Putrid Imp. However, the second part of your plan here would have run into some issues.
Colosseum. I was like, why would you ever crack a Colosseum? The ley line's in the land slot, Caleb. It's just an elaborate land. We talked so much about nonsense again that I forgot the current board state.
No, that's fine. No, don't blame me. That's okay. I can take it.
I'll always blame you. So that's a lot of damage. That's 11 for those counting along at home.
Are there outs? Can you think of any here? You'd have to be like looting into multiple cards, right?
I mean, Deluge? Question mark. I can't think of any outs in the actual deck, honestly. Like, I guess, like looting would both have to hit. It'd have to hit Nature's Claim and another looting effect, right? That's the only way.
And I think that would study. And I think that would like stop it. So
Nature's Claim plus Careful Study allows her to play, but I don't know if it allows her to win.
Yeah.
No.
That's it. That's the match.
Lion's Eye Diamond was not the winning card there.
Emma had some sweet lines that first game. Loop and Gax and what. And then game 2 and 3 both came down to ley lines versus the World Day.
Yeah, there's a lot more interplay in that matchup than I thought there'd be. Like when we saw the bridges get popped and things like that as well. And then the Hogaks blanking each other, so it turned into like slamming like zombies into each other. Yeah, that was more interesting than I expected. Unfortunately, game 2 and 3 came down to being less like that because Ley Line of the Void and that whole like sub game.
That's the thing about those engine decks, right? Those graveyard based decks. It's like, sideboard cards. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I mean that's the majority of modern when compared to Legacy, right? Most decks are just engine decks looking to fold to a sideboard card. But so it's unfortunate. But the first game was very, very interesting, I thought.
Very.
And then we had the most number of miscard names, so misnamed cards so far this LPL. I mean, it is only round 2, so I'm setting a high bar with like 2, and misreading Cephalid Coliseum as well. Card's pretty nutty. You need to understand and remember all the text on that card to play Dredge correctly.
Oh, I confuse card names all the time. Card names that sound similar, cards that are like similar cards but with drastically different names, they just all get jumbled up.
Yeah, like, and that's why like I can never. I struggle when I'm like writing out deck lists on like Goldfish or whatever, and I'm like, it's something to do with silence. Like Serenity, for example, is it's a pseudonym for like peace, right? So I'm like, it's silence something. And that's all deafening silence in the sideboard. So that's the card I mean. That's the card.
A lot of times I'm building and there's a chat there, and I'm just like asking the chat like, what's the card? There you sack it, pay a black to draw a card and hit their grave. It's 2 months script, but not, right? People are shouting out at me. I'm like, all right, okay. And if the chat wasn't there, I'd have to like use the search engine to like narrow the card down. Anyway,
my favorite one is when our chat doesn't give you the correct answer at all, and you're just like rolling through ridiculous like cards. Like, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. To let people know what's coming up next, we have Andrea Mengucci versus Jarvis. So we're going to see Delver take on the Dredge Menace. So as you can see from the bracket, Emma will slip down into a battle against Cyrus in our 4th game of this evening. Meanwhile, Andrea will take on Jarvis and we'll see if a Delver and some. I'm trying to think of cards like good in this matchup. If Delver and some burn spells can get there against an army of zombos
and sideboard surgicals.
I was going to say there are 3 surgicals in the sideboard of Mengucci's deck, so those can do some relatively heavy lifting.
I don't think the Delver versus Dredge matchup is as bad as most people think it is most of the time. It's not unwinnable game 1. You can counter LEDs, you can counter like a really like important Dredge effect or card draw spell. You can apply pressure. Sometimes Dredge has a mana base that deals them damage. Sometimes their Dredges aren't very hot and it takes them a while to get rolling while you're attacking there with Delvers. And the Dredge creatures aren't great at blocking most of the time. Anyway,
I mean, Narcomoeba is absolutely a house in that matchup. It can stop a whole 3 damage and generate some zombos.
Yeah.
You're like,
so
I guess so.
I'm not saying the game one is. I'm not saying the game one is favorable for Delver at all, but it should be close.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I would definitely favor. If I was asked to pick one of those decks to play in a matchup against an unknown opponent, I would more than likely pick the Dredge deck. But I wouldn't say it's impossible for the Delver deck to win. It's just that obviously, again, on die rolls, you could just be facing down a huge army of zombos before you've even got a chance to daze anything, you know. So it's interesting, and hopefully it'll be as much of a game as the game 1 of this round was.
All right, it sounds like they are ready for the next round, and they can. We're going to take a quick break while the commentary team gets adjusted once more.
Yes. We're going to throw over to some other commentators who are going to commentate the next round. So thank you for having us this evening, chat, and enjoy the rest of your legacy.
Hang tight.